Next, I have the privilege of introducing our next speaker. And a very interesting part about this next speaker, which is going to be Mr. Dave Bonney, and he is going to introduce somebody, I believe. Is that correct? Lydia, did you want to introduce her? Or did you want... But the interesting part about this is our third annual Harmony of Healing. And today we had somewhere around 25 different nonprofits and ministries that have gathered here today to share about what they are doing and to learn from other people. 25 in our third annual event. And so it has grown tremendously because our first event had 2. So we had Heartland, the host, and we also had Broken and Beautiful, which is going to be our next speaker today. So if Lydia, if you'd like to go ahead and join us, or Dave, yeah, whoever, come on up. So longtime friends, excellent ministry partners.
Yeah, so just as a, introduction, we have been working now with Heartland for probably 3 years, and we have 3 of our volunteers are from Heartland that go into prison with us at least once or twice a week, and it's both prisons. So we have an abnormally love relationship with Heartland because it's been such a big part of our building our ministry. And I know it was Chillicothe, that's where Heartland really is a primary ministry there. So my name is Dave Bonney. I just got to give you a quick overview, then I'm going to let Lydia talk. I'm going to go sit over there so she can talk and tell her story. But really what I wanted to do for this one is to be able to talk about what we found works with women in prison and how they can change their lives in a dramatic way, right? And I look at her and I want to cry sometimes because I know what a big change it's been. And
please don't cry.
Well, here, you got to turn it on or use this one.
Please don't cry.
Okay. But what we found, so here's my story real quick, and I'm going to let Lydia do the talking because I thought you should hear it from someone who's changed, not someone who watches a change. So I first started going to prison. I signed up to go to a men's prison. I never wanted to go to a women's prison, but it fell through. And they needed someone to go to the women's prison because we didn't have enough people going. There were only 2 people. So I did that kind of reluctantly. And so I got 2 daughters. And after I went there once, I just go, oh, this is like so. My empathy level went off the chart. So I went there for a couple of years. And one time I was at a service and I saw a lady that we'd been working with that had been doing well. She left and she came back six months later. And I said, what happened? And she told me how tough it was when she left prison. And she started crying. So that's like my kryptonite, right? So, and she told me, she said, I went back. She said, Dave, I did everything we talked about doing. I went to church. Nobody would sit with me. She goes, I tried to get a job. I couldn't get a job. She was living with her mother. So she said, I started hanging around with my old friends and she relapsed, right? And it just something tore my heart right there. And I said, you can't love them in prison and forget about them when they get released. So in 2019, I quit my job to do this full time and turn us into a reentry ministry where we connect with organizations like this that are transition houses. We connect with churches. So we have sanctuary churches we're setting up all over the state where the churches do their prayer warriors. They do pen pal programs. They do discipleship programs while the ladies are in prison. And I told the ladies, I said, there's people that love you in prison that you know will love you when you get out of prison. And to me, that was such an important thing to say. So here's Lydia. She's one of the ones from Chillicothe primarily that we got involved with. And her last name is Vilkanskas. Which, it's like not easy, right? So I'm hoping she gets married here so she can change that name. But anyway, so I wanted you to hear from her what worked because I think it's important to understand how all the pieces fit together because, the key is there's a lot of emotional healing that's got to go on. There's people that got to be in your life relationships-wise. You have to have a safe place to live and grow, and you got to have Christ in your life first of all, right? And when Christ becomes and starts guiding your life, which has driven me to women's prison, okay, but then everything changes. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm just going to sit over there. It's all you, Lydia. Okay?
Thanks. You can pull that slide up now if you want, or we don't have to use them at all, but there's some cool pictures on there. So that picture is the first time I got arrested for drugs in 2019. And this picture is when I graduated Victory Mission, which is really supposed to be a 12-month program, and it took me 15. I had a little extra learning to do. But Dave is right. So there has to be some kind of method in place when you leave prison so that you have the right tools for success. And that method actually starts while you're still inside of prison. I know I'm not the only one in this room who has been to prison before, but most people who go to prison have trust issues. I did, and Cassie did. That's my best friend. And so it's important to build a relationship with people who you can trust, especially people inside prison. And that's where Broken and Beautiful stepped in for me. They were in Chillicothe every Monday night. And honestly, I started going every Monday because they had great music and I was bored. And so I started going every Monday and just building a relationship. And I very early on had a home plan that I was planning on going to. It was one I had wanted to go to the first time I went to prison, but couldn't get in. And so I had it all figured out, but I kept going to these programs that Broken and Beautiful had, and the Lord just started speaking to me, and he said, hey, you really need some sort of discipleship program. This 4-month program that you're gonna go to in Kansas City isn't gonna cut it. And so because I had a rapport with Broken and Beautiful, because I had seen them every Monday for a year, I was comfortable asking Dave for help. And so I did. I went up to him and I said, Dave, I got to do something different. I have a home plan. It's not going to work for me. I need a discipleship program. So Dave said, oh, go to Victory Mission. And I said, no, I don't want to go to Victory Mission. It's in Springfield. My family's in Kansas. I'm going to Kansas City. And he, like a dad, like a father, his face just dropped. Like he was devastated when I told him that. And he said, just go talk to him, because they were speaking that night at prison. And only because of his sad expression did I go talk to these people. So I went and I talked to them. And I also told them, oh, you sound great. Your program sounds fantastic, but I'm not going to Springfield. I'm sorry. But the next day I had a call out from my IPO, and you IPOs know that there's a wait list to go see these people. And I never asked to see my IPO. It was just a random call out. And so I went and saw her and asked for the application to Victory Mission. And I ended up there, and I was really successful there. And the funny story is that because I had told them I didn't want to go to Springfield, they didn't want me. Because it's not that they didn't want me, they didn't think I'd stay, because this is not the area I wanted. I had already told them no, but Dave is very persistent because he has relationships with the home plans. And so he called them and emailed them. And how many did you say? 16 emails? Okay. 3 or 4, according to him, 16 according to me. It's whatever you want. But he did have to multiple times speak on my behalf. And that's the relationship that people need when they're leaving prison. And so I had this relationship built with them, and I went to Victory Mission, where I knew no one in Springfield. And I went there because I felt the Lord had called me there. And also I didn't want to disappoint Dave. So I went there and I got off. So it's just a building in the north side of Springfield, which is not the nicest area in Springfield. And I lived in Boonville prior to that, which is like a town of 8,000. And so now I'm going to Springfield, which is a huge city. And I get there and I'm nervous and I'm a little bit scared, and I get in this building that looks like, I don't know, it's just a building. I mean, it's just a building. And I'm like, well, this is weird. I expected like a house or, something like that. And I get there and I go up the elevator, and I'm not even joking you. When I got off the elevator, like, you could feel love in the walls. And I don't know if anyone's ever experienced that before. I hadn't. But I walked off that elevator and all I felt was love. And I hadn't even talked to anyone. and it was just love. And then I met Cassie, and she gave me a hug first time. Well, I met her in prison, and I didn't like her. And then I re-met her at the program, and she didn't like me, and now she's my best friend. But so at Victory Mission, I do love you. So Victory Mission has a different approach, probably similar to Heartland. I don't know a lot about Heartland's program, but I think it's very good. They believe in a slow approach to restoring your life. Also, their motto is, no life is beyond repair, which I wholeheartedly believe. There is nobody's life who can't be repaired and can't be restored. Jesus shows us that over and over and over and over again in the gospel, and I wholeheartedly believe that. And so that's the approach they take, and they have 5 holistic areas. So it's spiritual, relational, societal, vocational, and financial. And so in the program, that's the 5 areas that you work on. And so the first 4 or 6 months, if you're me, you don't work, and you spend a lot of time working on some of these areas. Can you go to the next slide, please? So the first thing that they work on is your identity in Christ. I've always been a believer, but I never had a personal relationship, and I never knew what Christ had done for me. I never fully understood that. So in this verse, 2 Corinthians 5:17, which is one of my most favorite verses, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come, the old is gone, and the new is here. So I learned that once Jesus was in my heart, my past was no more. I was completely severed from that. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to feel guilty for it. There's no shame in it. I can just be who God created me to be. That past is gone. And if you don't come to terms with that, it's very hard to rebuild your life. And so that was the first thing. And stop it. And it took me months. I grew up in a home that was very legalistic, maybe. So every time you did something wrong, you had to ask for forgiveness. And it was always a process. And I learned that I've been forgiven. I don't have to continually ask for forgiveness. I have to repent. I have to own my mistakes, and I have to change directions from what I've messed up. But that's it. There's no shame, and there's still love. And so I learned that. And then the other thing that happened in phase 1 that I really relied on Broken and Beautiful, still a lot to get through, is I had a couple corrections, which ended up costing me 2 extra months in phase 1, which ended up being the biggest blessing. But one of them I absolutely wholeheartedly couldn't see in myself. I didn't agree with it. I felt like my chaplains didn't know me. I felt like they didn't understand who I was. But because Broken and Beautiful didn't leave me when I left prison, because they stayed with me and provided me counseling, I had a counselor that was not part of Victory Mission that I could go to and be like, hey, this is what is happening, and I don't see it. I don't agree with it. I don't know what to do. This is very hard. And she walked me through that. And I spent weeks, probably at least 2 weeks, crying over this and just crying out to the Lord and not understanding it. But because I trusted Broken and Beautiful, and because I did have relationships within the program, Cassie was a big one in that one too, I was able to get through that by trusting the Lord and having resources and relationships with people that I never would have trusted before, ever. So the other thing that you learn once you're learning your identity is boundaries. I knew what boundaries were. I didn't know how to set them. I didn't know how to respect them. And so you spend 4 months just learning about boundaries, why they're important, how do you set them, how do you respect them. So that was important as well. And I really just can't, the Lord has and will restore all things in your life. He has and he will. And when I was going to do this, I was thinking about it, and it takes time. I know that everybody coming out of prison doesn't want to take another pause where they're not working, or maybe they can't talk to their family right away, or maybe they can't have a relationship. I know that that's not what everybody wants. But I was thinking about that because honestly, in my opinion, that's what everybody needs. Time to learn how to trust, time to learn how to set boundaries, time to learn how to cry out to the Lord, time to learn to rest in the Lord, time to understand how relationship actually works, because I didn't know. So I was thinking about it, and this is the analogy that I had come up with. So let's say you buy an old house, and it's a beautiful house, but it's run down and it needs work. So you can go the quick way and just throw on a coat of paint, or just put on some new siding and say, oh, it's done. You have that done in a week or so. Or you can go inside and you can find the rotten wood, and you can, see the termites in there, and you can take care of each problem step by step by step. And you can stretch that out maybe longer than you like, but in the end, that house is 100% restored, and it's gonna stand longer. And that's the same with us. So we can come out of prison and we can get a job right away, and we can, get in a relationship right away, and we can do all the things that we want to do. But it's probably not going to last. It's probably not going to be real. The slower you can go, the more you can find the termites or the rotten wood, and you can solve those problems, the mental health or the lies that you were believing about yourself, the stronger you're going to be. The stronger you're going to be. You can go to the next slide, please. So at Victory Mission, there's no outside contact for the first 30 days. This is my family. That up there is almost my whole family, except for my children. My brother and I, so my mom and dad are in the middle, you can tell, and I'm next to them. And then my sister's on this side, then her husband's behind her, and then the one next to him is my brother. His name is TJ. And he had not talked to me since 2018. And because I slowed that relationship, it started with an email. Hey, I'm sorry. I know I messed up. And just owning all of my mistakes, thanking him for helping with my children, just really humbling myself. Didn't ask him for anything, just I'm sorry, thank you for what you did. And he emailed me back and said, I don't understand what happened or what you're going through, but I'm happy that you're trying. So that started in March of 2024. And I just kept I sent him a card once a month, just a, hey, still love you, still doing good card, and slowly built that relationship. And then I got to go home to my mom and dad's this year for Christmas for the first time since 2018. I was allowed to go back there for Christmas, and my brother and I sat down and had an adult conversation, and his kids started calling me Aunt Lydia again. And it was the best experience of my life. I never thought my brother and I would ever have a relationship again. It's still pretty emotional for me to talk about because, he lost faith in me, but because I slowly built that relationship, and I had to humble myself, and I had to be the one that reached out, but I also had to be the one that was like, I'm sorry. I understand why you did this. I messed up. But now we have that relationship. He'll text me pictures of his kids. He has 4 kids, and they're beautiful. My mom and dad have always been there for me. I was blessed that way. They came and visited me in prison, so that was a blessing. And then those are my children. That's last year for Mother's Day. Since 2018, I was not allowed to see my children alone. Also, I was not allowed to talk to them on the phone without the guardian, my sister for my son and my daughter's dad. I was not allowed to talk to them on the phone without being on speakerphone with them around. So that went on until it was still going on while I was at Victory Mission. I would say probably 6 months into Victory Mission, they started letting me talk to them. I finally got their cell phone numbers, and I could call them personally. And then this Mother's Day was the first time that I had my kids without supervision since 2018. But again, I had to slowly ease into that relationship. I couldn't be angry because, hey, I'm not on drugs. I've been off drugs for a year, so why can't I do this? Why don't you trust me? Well, they don't trust me. They don't trust me because all I've done is show them that they can't trust me. And it took time to build that up. And so that's my babies. They're 19 and 23. And I love them. Okay, you can go to the next slide. That's my friends. So my friends are the best. And that is one of the things, like, I know a lot of you come from a drug past, and so you've always thought you've had like this great circle of friends. They love you, they're gonna support you, they're gonna be there for you. And then you go to prison and maybe 1 or 2, for me, none, are there to maybe answer your emails once every couple months or take your phone calls maybe once every 6 months, or nobody's putting money on your books. They're not your friends. They don't care about you. So for the first time in my life, because of Victory Mission, I have like great friends. And these ladies in these pictures, I could call them at 2 a.m. on any day from anywhere in the country, and they would get to me. And I would do the same for them. And I love them very much. But like I said, that also took time. And I just love them. Friends are important. Your circle is important. It does matter, just like, growing up when everyone said, hey, it matters who you hang out with. It does. It does. And I hope you guys are lucky to have friends like I do, because what a blessing. You can go to the next slide. My church. So I go to Central Assembly of God in Springfield. It's a really, really big church. At Victory Mission, you rotate churches and you get to pick out the church that you want from a group of 4. And I struggled with that decision because every church was good. Every church had an element that I liked. And I decided on Central, and I was scared to death because it's like a church of 2,000 people. And it's like people who have been Christians for their whole life. There's like people who are in their 80s who like have been missionaries for 40 years. So it was very intimidating, but the Spirit just like drew me there. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And so I showed up at that church and I went to the connections pastor and I'm like, hey, I'm Lydia, I'm from Victory Mission. I need a mentor. I wanna get baptized. I wanna be a member. How do I get in a Sunday school class? And I just laid it on the table for her. And she was like, okay, let's do it. And she became my mentor, and I got baptized, and I joined a Sunday school class. And you guys, my Sunday school teacher is Wave Nunnally. Google him. Like, it's cool. He is like, he came from he used to be a hippie, and then he went out seeking the truth, and he found Jesus, and he's cool. But this is how I knew I had the right church. Your church is important. Your church is important, maybe the most important. This is how I knew. It came time for Membership Sunday, and they announced my membership like probably 2 or 3 months after I started going there. And I had to write like a little tidbit about myself. And I had forgotten what I wrote, but you guys, I put I was from prison. So the guy is standing up there and there's 2,000 people and he's like, yeah, I'd like to introduce Lydia Vilkanskas. She comes to us from Chillicothe Correctional Center. And I died, and those people stood up and clapped for me. They stood up and they clapped for me, and I'm like, this is my church. This is why I picked here. And it was fantastic. But yeah, she's from Chillicothe Correctional Center. And it's been great. And so this is pictures, me and Cassie's graduation and Jason. And those are all the people from our church that took time out of their Monday to come and support us at our graduation, which was fantastic. We had the largest group of people from any church there, and they're just really supportive. So if like you guys, some of you guys are in the program here, and I don't know if your plan is to stay at Heartland or to leave, but if you decide to leave, the first thing you need to do is find a church like that or like this, who you can be yourself and they love you because they know what Jesus did in your life. Okay, you can go to the next one. All the stuff. So that's the relationship aspect. So there's still the financial, the vocational, and the societal. Thank you, Cassie. So a lot of people get out of prison and they're like, oh, I can't get a job. I can't get a job. I can't do this. I can't do that. You know, nobody wants to hire me. I have felonies. Well, I went into it slowly. 6 months after I started the program, I started looking for a job. And Great Southern Bank hired me. I have 3 drug felonies. I had been out of prison for 6 months, and Great Southern Bank hired me. That's the Lord. And that's believing that I'm no longer who I was, that I'm a new creation in Christ. That's what happened there. And the truth is, I was struggling to find a job, and I was a little bit scared about it. And so I thought I had surrendered it to the Lord, but sometimes you think you have and you really haven't. So I wrote a handwritten prayer, and I put my pen down. I wrote it. I said, Lord, you know, I'm surrendering this job search to you. I know you're going to open the right door, and I trust you, and I thank you for doing that. Amen. And I set my pen down, and my phone rang, and it was the bank with the job. So, yeah. But I wouldn't have known to do that without getting that solid foundation and learning to rest in the Lord and learning to trust the Lord and slowing down my life for a few months. I mean, what's a few months to 85, 90 years? Nothing. It's nothing. So that was how I started off with my vocational, which I'm going to come back to in a little bit. You're required to get a driver's license if you're able to, buy a car if you're able to. So I bought a car with cash right there. It's a 2008 Toyota Avalon, nothing fancy, but I love it. It's the first car. I got it legal. It's the first car that I had that was legal and still is legal since probably 2016. I mean, I was driving around on cars with, expired plates. You know how it is. So that one's legal. And I just renewed the plates and stuff. Like, I didn't even let them expire for a second. It's pretty cool. Vocational, what am I forgetting, Cass? That's it. Okay, so I'm going to go back to vocational. Oh, financial. That's what I'm forgetting. So at Victory Mission, you do a 10, 20, 30, 40 plan in phase 2 when you start working. So you tithe 10% to the church you pick. You save 40%. You keep 30%. 10, 20, 30, 40. 10, 20, 30, 40. And 20% goes to program fees. Best plan I've had in my life. That 40% adds up fast. That's why I could buy that car with cash. And you get into the habit. So Victory Mission saves the 40% for you. They don't take any of it. They give it back to you, all of it, 100% of it, at the end of phase 2 when you go into phase 3. But when you get into phase 3, you're required to do everything on your own. You pay rent, you buy your own clothes, your own food, you do all of that. Up until phase 3, your clothing, your food, your toiletries, it's all provided for you from Victory Mission. And I think that's like that here, isn't it? It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's so stress relieving to know that you have clothes, that you have a bed, that you have a roof, that you have food. Like, that's wonderful. So when I got to phase 3, because I was in the habit of saving that, I just kept saving the 40% of my check. And I just have a savings account. And I don't save 40% anymore. I'm saving 30%, but I still save 30%, and it comes right out of my check into my savings account, so I never see it. And because of that, like my son lives in Delaware, so because of my savings account, like I can just buy him an airplane ticket to come visit me, and anytime I want. My starter went out on my car. That's like $500. I just fixed it. Didn't need a credit card. Didn't need to call my dad. I just had the money. I just fixed it. It's fantastic. Cassie and I spoil ourselves. Like, we just bought VIP tickets to the Light the Way concert this summer. So it's wonderful to have money and just like know you can spend it. I still tithe the 10%. I still do all the things. So this desk was my job at the bank. And then this desk is my job now. I now work full-time for Victory Mission. I'm in ministry full-time, which is fantastic. So, thank you. This is really nice to rest my arm on. They actually called me when I was working at the bank and said, hey, we want you to put in your resume for this job, community relations manager. And I'm like, oh, I'm really happy at the bank. I'm comfortable. It's a great place to work. And so like I teeter-tottered back and forth. I had conversations with Cassie, and it was a no. I wasn't going to do it. And then Mindy, who works there, texted me, and she's like, hey, I haven't got your resume yet. Are you going to turn that in? And I'm like, dang it. Now I have to, because they've asked me twice. So I turned it in, and they're like, okay, you want to come in for an interview? And I like teeter-tottered with it, and I'm like, I'll just go in for the interview, and I'm going to ask all these questions that I know they're going to be like, oh yeah, we can't do that, and then I can just tell them no based on these questions. So my questions were like, I still want to volunteer with the ladies. I don't want to give that up. I need some sort of insurance. I need more money than I was making at the bank. What was my other one? Was that it? Okay, so those were the 3 questions, and I thought I was gonna be a no on all of those, but every question I asked, were like, yeah. So I'm like, okay, Lord, I hear you. So I read like the description again. I'm like, I don't even know what this stuff means. But I'm like, okay, I guess like this is where the Lord wants me to go. I always wanted to be full-time ministry, but I saw myself more as like a chaplain, and the time wasn't right. I hadn't been like mature enough in my faith to do that role yet. But I'm like, well, I guess I'll just jump on board, because I feel this is where the Lord is leading me, and he opens doors that maybe you don't always understand, or maybe you can't see through the doorway clearly yet. So I took the job, and I love the job, and it is the best job I've ever had. I don't really, I get to socialize. That's my job. Like, I get to call donors and be like, hey, how's it going? Anything I can pray for you for? And I have really incredible opportunities in the community with the job. So will you please go to the next slide? Abundant blessings. So this picture, I'm in the Rotary Club, you guys. I'm still on parole, and I'm in the Rotary Club. So that's this picture. So that's that picture, and actually, they just asked me to be on the board of my Rotary Club, which is cool. Yeah, it's crazy. Downtown Springfield Rotary is where it is at. If you guys come to Springfield, that's the one to join. This picture is at Springfield Business Journal's 40 Under 40. This is my boss, Mindy. She's fantastic, and she was one of the 40 Under 40, which is huge. And so I get to do that and network and meet like really cool people. Cassie and I up there, we went to 100 Wise Women. So that was roughly 500 of the most prominent business women in Springfield that we just went and had a steak dinner with. Like, it's pretty cool what God can do in your life. But none of these things would have been possible if I hadn't slowed down, if I hadn't been intentional with relationships, if I hadn't waited for the Lord, if I hadn't trusted Broken and Beautiful, if they wouldn't have walked alongside me inside and outside of prison. Those are the things that are the most important. Like, you guys that are here, you're so blessed. Take your time. Trust it. Trust the Lord. Like, your life is going to be it's going to blow you away. It's going to blow you away. Like, it's really cool. So, yeah. I'm also in a few other organizations. Nobody cares that I was in prison. Nobody cares that you guys were in prison. Nobody cares that you used to be addicted to drugs. Nobody cares. It doesn't matter. It's not going to slow you down unless you let it. So believe that the Lord has changed you, because he has. And I'm done. Thank you.